Hey everybody, we got episode 9 up today. We got our good friend Tony Martin. Tony's a UFC welterweight. I believe his record's 8-5 in the UFC, but he's 4-1 at 170. Coming off a tough loss to Damian Maia, but more importantly than him being a UFC fighter is Tony's got a really unique backstory. I think he's got a extremely kind of like a tough story to hear. Interesting story to hear, kind of like where he's came from, and then you kind of understand, some of the things he goes through his whole life and like what made him how he is today. So I think we're excited to have him Skype in and let him tell. Hopefully he'll open up a little bit, and he's one of those guys. Once you get him talking, he can talk forever. But everything he says is pretty interesting, and I think next time you see him fight after listening to this, it'll really resonate. All right, we got Tony Martin here on the line. Thanks for calling in, Tony.
How's it going, Papa T?
I'm doing good. I'm here with my buddy Brendo.
Hey, Tony.
And
hi, Brendo.
Sarah's off camera sitting here. So if you see me rush out, it means her water broke and we're about to have our daughter. So don't mind her. And then if you see me staring off, it's probably because she's trying to tell me what to do this whole time and boss me around. so
just the usual.
Exactly. She can hear everything you're saying, but she can't talk back. But I think you have a pretty interesting story. You have a unique background. Obviously, you're a successful UFC fighter. We own a gym together in Minnesota, but I think there's a lot of stuff that people, you're not super active on social media, so I think a lot of people don't really ever hear your full story. So I think it'd resonate with a lot of people that hear this is, your background, how you grew up, how you got into MMA, and, kind of, what you're all about. But so we'll just let you take it off. You want to tell us about, where you grew up, your family, anything you want to talk about.
All right, yeah, so I was born in Palos Heights, Illinois, which is about 20, 30 minutes outside of Chicago. And at the time, my dad and mom were together, married, and then I have an older sister, a younger sister. And we lived there until I was in second grade, I think, and my mom finally split, but she needed to move away, so we moved to Minnesota originally, and then I was out there a little bit, and I kept going back and forth with my mom and my dad. And then I remember about fourth grade, we moved to Somerset, Wisconsin. And I was in Somerset, Wisconsin. Actually, rewind a little bit here. I jumped a little step. About third grade, I was, I remember I kind of got abused by one of my mom's boyfriends, and they sent me to a group home. And so I went to the group home, and the only way I could get out was my dad had to come up from Chicago to get me out. And so he came up to get me out because I was almost in the state systems at that point. So my dad comes up to the group home, takes me out. But then my dad moved in with my mom, and he had his girlfriend, and then she had her boyfriend. So it was just a really weird situation. And so then it doesn't really make a lot of sense what was going on. And then I moved to North Minneapolis with my dad. So then he moved into North Minneapolis, which is at this time was very predominantly black, and so I was like the only white kid in the whole neighborhood. And I lived there. Had to be about almost a year. I was there in third grade, and then he started doing like a lot of drugs, and the house ended up getting taken over by some crackheads, and it was just considered a crack house. So my mom finally came and got me out of there, and we moved into Somerset, Wisconsin. At this time, she moved to Wisconsin with my two sisters. And so I moved out to Wisconsin, and I started, school there. And, I think that I just was causing a lot of trouble at this time. I don't know what was going on for me moving around so much or really exactly how it all played out. But my mom couldn't handle me. And so then she talked to the state. The state took over, and I became a warden of the state. And they put me in the foster care system. And that's when I met, to this day, who I consider my dad is Todd Albert, which was my foster parent. And I met him in fourth grade. But it didn't work out that well. I was kind of crazy still. And he ended up like telling the state like they can't control me. So then I went to a group home in Minneapolis that, this place has about 30 or 40 kids that are all kind of have, problems. They come from a rough upbringing, and, we're all kind of crazy. And, so what they do is they think, oh, great idea, let's put them all together. Um, so they kept putting me on all kinds of different pills where, 1 week I would gain 30 pounds. The next week I'd be a zombie. And they just couldn't figure out exactly what was wrong with me. And what was it? I was there for about 6 months, I think. But I kept getting, kicked out. Not kicked out, but sent to the mental house. So I kept getting put in the mental house for, like, saying I was going to kill myself. I was just, like, this depressed kid. I'm assuming from being, like, feeling abandoned all the time or whatnot and always moving. And so then the pills were messing with my head as well. So I couldn't really comprehend what was going on.
How old were you at this time? I'm trying to follow.
So, like, just the glimpses of when I was a kid, I just remember being very suicidal and just depressed. And the best thing my real dad has ever done for me is that he came up again to get me out of the group system, because he never signed off on me being a warden of a state. And technically my parents were still married. So he had to sign off on it as well, which he never did. So he came up from Illinois. He came to Minneapolis, picks me up. We have a court hearing, and he brings me back to Chicago. And the first thing he ever does is he takes me off all the pills. So he's like, listen, you're a kid. You're not going to be on all these pills. And I think to this day, that's actually one of the best things that's ever happened to me, where, I became halfway normal. I'm still kind of crazy. And, I do, some craziness, but it kind of leveled me out in a way where I can start thinking for myself and kind of can make my own choices.
How old are you at this time?
And so that was,
can you hear me, Tony?
Around, I moved there for 6th and 7th grade.
Okay.
I never went to a day of 5th grade.
Oh.
So at this time, I was just in and out of these group homes, and the volume just really kicked in.
Now you can hear.
Now I can hear you. I couldn't hear you for a long time.
Oh, I was just saying. So when you went to the group home in North Minneapolis, how old were you then?
So I went to the group home was in 4th grade. I'm not sure how old 4th grade is.
Okay, like maybe 10.
So it was around towards the end of 4th grade.
Okay.
And then I was there until around 5th grade. So I was there about in and out of there and into the mental house, and then I also got sent to juvie a few times because the hospital kept denying me after a while, because they're like, he's not crazy.
Right.
So like they're like, so then they would send me to the
kid jail.
The jail, yeah, the juvie for the kids. Yeah. So then my dad came up and got me, and then he brought me back to Chicago around 6th and 7th grade. I was in Illinois, and everything was going great for a while. And where he was working, he was making good money as a roofer, and then something happened where him and his girlfriend were kind of breaking up, and I think he started sleeping with this other girl that she had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend found out, and he must have gotten some legal trouble and set my dad up on this drug deal. And so my dad sold him some marijuana, and this had to be around towards the middle of 7th grade. And then I just remember the cops come knocking on the door. I don't know what time it is. It's probably like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I go to the door, and they're like, hey, it's Worth Police. And this time we're living in Worth. And so I look at my dad. I'm like, hey, they say it's the police. And he thought it was kind of just a joke, one of his buddies. And he puts his bowl underneath the couch really quick. And so he's like, open the door. So I go to open the door, and boom, they hit the door with a sledgehammer. And so I don't know how old you are in 7th grade, but I start flying to the back room. I don't know what the hell is going on. All of a sudden, this door's hit. There's like 20 cops flying in here, and then they tackle me on the bed in the back room. And then they realized I was a kid. They didn't know at the time that I'm just this juvenile kid. So they got him. There was a gun in the house, so they got him on a gun charge and then selling marijuana. And that is when things kind of started going really bad. Is where I think he got scared that he's going to prison for a long time, and his girlfriend at the time was getting really heavily back into drugs. And so they all started doing crack all the time, and we started moving into hotels. And so, in order to pay for the hotels and the drug habits, she started like prostituting out. And so I remember like we would be going from these random places in downtown Chicago to go get the drugs, or her to go into the house for a couple hours. And so it's just a really bad situation that, one of my uncles, or so-called uncle, one of my dad's good friends for a long time, Damon, finally after a few months of living in these hotels, he came and got me, and he called my mom, and he's like, listen, you need to take Tony. There's just no way he can stay in this environment. So again, now I'm moving back from out of Chicago, out of the hotels, and I go out to my mom's in the Somerset, Wisconsin. And this is around the end of 7th grade, going into 8th grade. And in Chicago, around 6th or 7th grade, I started playing football. And that's when I fell in love with football. I always watched it, but I wasn't really playing until 6th grade. And other than at the parks or just messing around, and I took a really big liking into football. I was really good, and I loved it, and it was one of my passions. So then I went to Somerset, Wisconsin, which is a huge football town. Like, they're obsessed with football. So that was kind of a big outlet of mine, was just sports and athletics. And I started playing football for Somerset, Wisconsin in 8th grade. But I moved in with my mom originally, and things were, again, me and my mom are very similar. We're very aggressive in nature, and we don't like to be kind of told what to do. So we started clashing heads right away. And if your mic's are on, I can't hear you at all, by the way.
No, we're not. I'm not talking. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm soaking this in.
So we started clashing heads, but at this time I was working with Todd, my foster parent, and we were talking a lot. And I remember somehow we got in a big fight, me and my mom, in 8th grade, and she like hit me with a belt buckle or something like that. And I was like, shit, I'm out of here, because I'm gonna end up killing her if she's like doing this. At this time, I'm in 8th grade. I think I'm a grown man. I think I'm the baddest person alive already. And so I called Todd. I'm like, hey, I need to move in. And so I moved in with Todd. And so that's where I pretty much predominantly lived for most of my high school. And I started playing football. And throughout high school, I was just really good at football. I love football. I love athletics. It was kind of just my outlet in life, was always athletics. And always my coaches, after the football season, would be worried about me because Tony would lose focus and,
have fun,
create some kind of drama, or create some kind of fight, or find some way to mess it up and get in trouble. And so that's what happened throughout high school. Is football season, Tony would be great. After football season, I would find ways to get in trouble. And I remember towards the end of my sophomore year, this is way after football season, towards the end of track, I got in a fight after a basketball game with some rival school guys, and I followed them out of from school property to the gas station, and I tried to get them to fight. They went to fight. I ended up jumping on the car. Anyways, I get kicked out of school. So I get kicked out of school towards the end of my sophomore year. All right, and they're like, you're going to miss football as well because you're going to be suspended for a year from all athletics. So then they make me go to a school they wanted me to go to a school in Amory, which is just for, again, kids that get in trouble. They go here, and if you pass the school or get through the school that show that you can go back to a public school, you have to graduate from the school, and then you're good. So I moved to Green Bay. It's the same school, owned by the same company. It's the exact same curriculum, the exact same program. And because in Green Bay was when Todd, originally in 4th grade, his girlfriend was Jackie, which was my foster mom, and I moved. She lived down in Green Bay, and at this time I was like, I kind of need a new environment. I think, everyone at the school in Somerset thinks I'm insane, so I'm like, I need to get out of here. So I go out there and I go to the school over summer because I wanted to get through this school as fast as possible so I could get back into regular school and start playing football again. And right away, after a month in the school, they're like, this kid's belongs in public school. He's not insane. I'm just a little crazy. So I graduate the school. They say the fastest time they've ever had someone come in. And I graduate, and then I kind of fell in love with this one girl, okay, back in Somerset. But she was in New Richmond, our rival school, and I fell with Cassie Kuntz was her name. And I thought I was in love, and I'm like, I gotta move back to Somerset, Wisconsin.
And you're 15?
And so I moved. What's up?
You're 15?
Yeah, wait, no, I had to be 16 now, right? Because I'm about to go into junior year.
Yeah, you're okay.
So I'm 16.
Young love.
And so I moved back to Somerset, and I try to re-enroll into Somerset High School. The principal, it was one lady, I forget her name. She hates my guts. Okay, they try to not let me in the school because they're like, "No, you didn't complete the Amory program." And I'm like, "Listen, it's the same exact program. It's owned by the same company. Everything's the exact same." And so they're like, "Nope, you need to go to Amory and and you need to complete the program in Amory." And then so they try to re-enroll me at Amory, and they come back. My insurance company's like, "No, absolutely not. We're not going to pay for the school because he already completed the program. You can't send someone back to the same program that he already completed. It doesn't make any sense." And so then I missed half my junior year of high school dealing with this. They wouldn't let me in because they're trying to tell me I got to complete this one school when I already completed it. So I'm missing half the school year, and I finally re-enroll in the school. All right. So I missed my whole junior year of football. All right. I don't know if you guys know too much about high school football, or like even high school recruiting. Your junior year is like very pivotal in all your recruiting.
Yeah.
Because that's just where you start sending your films in, and then these teams get interested and they watch you a little bit your senior year, but really your junior year is your big year. So I missed my whole junior year of all athletics. So that was pretty tough because, I'm already, I think I'm in love with this girl, and, so I moved back out here. When the other school, I was already pretty much enrolled out in Green Bay, and they were going to take me in. They were going to fight for me to like be on the football team, like to put a request in to overrule the 1-year suspension. So I think I dropped the ball on that part, but you're young and dumb. You think you're in love.
Did you get the girl though?
Yeah. So I move back out there, and I go into my senior year of football, and I'm having a hell of a year. Somerset football, we're killing it. We're destroying everyone, and I end up having a great senior year. And we start talking to a college because now I want to go play college ball. I don't want to go to college for school. Obviously, I'm only going to college to play football. That's the only thing. My motivation in life has always been athletics. So I ended up enrolling in North Dakota State University, and my coach knew their coach as well, and they're going to take a chance on me, knowing that I have trouble in the background, and they want to make sure I'm not going to come up there and
kill somebody.
Just create drama, get in trouble, or So I get a preferred walk on over there, and so I go up there. And going into college, my football coach, Coach Bruce Larson, was like, "Hey, this is a whole nother level. You got to understand that you're going to go play D1. This is D1 AA." And at this time, North Dakota State University was beaten to the U of M, and they would go to these other D1 schools in the preseason and beat them. And they, 3 years in a row, were undefeated. So this is like a big step. He kept telling me this is a huge step up. You need to be on your A game. So I was like so serious where I was lifting like crazy. All my numbers just skyrocketed. It was just in my brain. I thought I'm going to this whole nother level. I got to really, push the boundaries. And I went there, and right away I realized where I thought I was one of the best athletes there. Going in though, I didn't think that was the case. Going in, I was like, hey, this is just going to be a whole nother level and a whole nother game. If I'm not 100% in, I'm not going to be able to keep up. And right away, the guy ahead of me, Nick Schomer, was a great athlete, and he ends up getting drafted the year after. But so he was the starter, and I just felt like I was like, man, I'm faster, I'm stronger. The only thing he had on me was a little bit of size, and I never played free safety before, so he kind of had those techniques down. Um, and so it got to my head. I thought I was this invincible force again, and I started partying all the time. I started partying, and that was just a complete disaster. I wasn't going to school. I was just going to football practice, and then I'd go out to I'd go out to these parties, and I'd be like, listen, I'm either getting laid or I'm fighting. There was no in between. So, I was young and dumb. I needed guidance. That was the thing that I needed at the time. I still needed, and that was like when I was in Somerset on my coach Bruce Larson. He would pick me up at 5 a.m. to bring me to the weight room, and we would be like, he was on me all the time. Like, listen, I know the second you get swayed or you don't have this structure, that you're going to mess up, you're going to do something stupid. And so when I went to go to college, that's what happened. There was no structure in college. You either show up or you don't. And you either go to class or you don't. You don't have a teacher calling you in college. It's so that was not what Tony needed. Tony needed guidance, and I needed parental supervision. Because I was still a boy. I thought I was just a boy that thought I was on top of the world. So I ended up getting in all kinds of trouble. Okay, this is when Tony's like legal trouble started really coming through. And I make a lot of horrible mistakes. I'm getting into fights, and then I had one of my buddies I was on the football team thought we had this master plan on how to start stealing from Best Buy. Well, actually, rewind. I ended up getting kicked out of the dorms for fighting. Okay, I got in a fight in the dorms with one of the JUCO guys that come in halfway through the year. He owed me money over playing Madden, and my one buddy talked me into going up to the dorm room and starting a fight to get my money. So I get kicked out of the dorms. And at this time, I'm 18. I don't really know anyone other than people in the dorms, so I have nowhere to go. So I moved back to Minnesota, where my mom moved into. She moved out to St. Cloud because that's where my older sister went to college and graduated. My younger sister was living now as well. So I moved out there, but I was still talking to my good buddy Timmy from NDSU, and he started working at Best Buy. And he was the theft control at Best Buy. Okay? So he thinks of this, masterful plan of how to start stealing from Best Buy. And at this time, right, I come from nothing. I've always had no money. So the idea of walking into Best Buy and grabbing anything you want really appealed to me. All right. And it turned out to be a complete disaster. But prior to this Best Buy incident, I met a girl, okay, which ended up becoming my future wife. And I met her, and I started talking to her, and I met her in Fargo, North Dakota, but she lived in St. Thomas. She was going to school in St. Thomas. I was already living in Minnesota. And so it was really just coincidence that we met in the first place, because she was just visiting there, a buddy, and we met at my buddy's party. Anyways, she's from Fargo. Her whole family's from Fargo. Her dad's a lawyer in Fargo. Her grandpa was a lawyer in Fargo. Her sister's now a lawyer in Fargo. Okay. And where Tony decides to get in trouble is at Fargo. And so the whole Best Buy ring gets busted. All right. And there's like 12 of us or something like that. We're walking in the Best Buy, and we would just grab whatever we wanted and just walk out the front doors. And so we're on the front page of every newspaper in Fargo. And at this time, I've met, the ex-wife's parents, so they know me. And right away, her dad knows that I'm getting arrested before I even know I'm getting arrested. Okay, so he's like making calls, like figuring out what's going on. So it's a terrible thing. I think I'm going to prison. Okay, I'm like, we're going to prison. It ended up being like $150,000, all like 12 or 15 people took. So I'm like, listen, we're all going to prison. My life's ruined. Everyone that thought I was going to prison is right. It's happening now. Okay, at this time, everyone, probably from my high school and growing up was like, no, Tony's going to go to prison someday. It's just inevitable. And so we get lucky. We don't go to prison. I sit 4 months in jail. So I go to jail for 4 months, and you would think this would be the wake up call. You know what I mean? You're 4 months in the jail. It's time for the wake up call. Now, but the best thing that's ever happened to me is I get out of jail and I end up getting in trouble again right away. Okay, I go downtown because I was in jail on my 21st birthday. So I'm like, oh, I have to go celebrate my 21st birthday when you get out. No, because you're an idiot. Like, no, it's like the dumbest thing you ever think of. You're on probation. You can't be drinking. You just sat 4 months. How dumb can you be? Like, are you retarded? But I go out. I get in a fight right away downtown. I get locked up again. And right after this, I was like playing semi-pro football. And I'm like, okay, this was the wake-up call. Like, Tony, you really need to figure out something in your life. Like, you're going to go to prison. You're going to prison. You're fucking your whole life up. It's time to, like, make a change. And one of my buddies from the football team is like, hey, I'm actually training at a gym in St. Cloud, Minnesota under Brock Larson. And I've been watching fighting at this time and, watching George St. Pierre and being like, I could destroy George St. Pierre. Obviously, in my prime, I was like, I'm a specimen. I think I'm the baddest guy alive. And, I go from all these colleges where you're knocking everyone out with one punch. I'm like, there's no one that can handle, my right hand. And you're so delusional. I'm like these like guys at the bar, that they can beat up. You're watching the TV, you can destroy these guys. So I look up Brock Larson. I see that he's been, he just got cut from the UFC. He lost a few in the UFC. I'm like, I'm going to go in here, destroy this guy really quick, go to the UFC, and take over. And so I go into the gym, and I have a pretty good rude awakening. We have a little guy named Dan O'Neill. He fought at 125, and he's like destroying me. He's submitting me. He's beating my ass. And I'm just like, this is just unbelievable. And this is when I realized how much fighting, like how much I didn't know, or how weak I really was. And I fell in love instantly. I fell in love the first second I walked in there. And this was a huge moment of when Tony started to grow up. I hadn't fully, I was still in the progress of growing up. I'm still in the progress of growing up. So like when I say like, this is a realization, I'm not saying, hey, I'm a great person now, or like I've learned all my lessons, or now I'm going to make a lot of mistakes still from this day forward. But I realize this is something I could really focus on and try to make something of myself. And Brock ended up being, one of my best friends to the day, and just a huge role model in my life, and like a father figure. And you guys have had Brock on the show, I know, and you guys have both met Brock. But if you don't know Brock, it's like this guy like follows life to the T, of not cutting corners, of like living the life that you talk about, and not being a douchebag or running around on the wife or shit like that, which, I was doing. I was a complete piece of shit. I don't care what anyone says. I'm like, I wasn't the greatest husband, or, the greatest friend or anything like that, but I tried to be, there for people. I try to be like Brock. Just like seeing Brock, how he lived life, was kind of like what I wanted to be. Our personalities are a lot different in a lot of ways, so I'm not going to be like Brock, but it was just, he's so good at martial arts, and he's such a good human where he'll drive, 8 hours on a day's notice to go corner an amateur, where it's just like, no one does that. Not at where he's been, what I mean? Not at the level he's fought at, or like the fight, like how like a lot of those guys could be like, no, I'm way above something like that. And so like he really has rubbed off on me a lot. And towards the beginning of my MMA career, everything was going great. I ended up getting into trouble again about one fight in my pro career. I got in a fight, and I ended up sitting another month in jail. Okay, so I do another month in jail and that was when I got assault fighting a guy. 100% my fault, just being a douchebag, tough guy, and some things. The interaction was a little weird, but it was just a weird night. But I take full blame. That was the time where I was like, "There's no more fucking around. There's no more legal trouble, Tony. There's no more. This is
How
like
many
it."
times did you go
Brock
to jail?
told me. Brock kicked me out of the gym. Even he kicked me out of the gym for a week, and he's like, "Listen, I love you, Tony, but this needs to be it. Like this is it. This is your last shot. If you ever want to like do anything with your life, you need to be better."
Right.
And that was actually the last time I've ever had any legal trouble. I mean, I've done some illegal things. Let's not say that. But it's the last time that I feel like I really, my mind changed, and my perspective of life changed. Was like, you need to change my morals or my whole everything. I just had to change my mindset. I feel like it was a huge mindset where I was just like, hey, you need to stop being a punk, stop running around doing these stupid things. I was like 22 at the time. It's time to grow up. And fighting is going good. I'm not making any money. I'm not making any money fighting, but fighting is going good. I feel like I'm one of the best fighters in the world, but at this time I have no striking. I'm just a grappler. And Brock's like, okay, we need to like start adding to your game. We need more striking. And Brock is that coach that always pushed me to go places. So he started bringing me down to American Top Team down in Coconut Creek, and we went down there. Anytime you guys want to jump in and start like asking questions or something,
I think we do have like a little bit of a time constraint, so we want to try to. You're doing great talking. I feel like I'm learning a lot of cool stuff. I think if we can skip forward, I think we have some like questions that we want to kind of get into. Like we get a good idea of your background, and I think I even learned a lot of stuff about you. I know Sarah probably did. I didn't know you went to jail a second time. That was news to me, but yeah, I think if obviously you met Brock, he had a huge impact on your life, and then the MMA career. After a couple years training, you got into the UFC at 8-0. Like,
yep.
Probably before you're. I mean, mentally ready, but you 3
years. I only trained 3 years.
No, you were really
martial arts.
You were fast tracked, and then now what's your overall record in the UFC? It was like 8-4.
I'm 8-5.
8-5.
So I started 1-3, and then what did I win?
You won like 4 in a row,
I think, or
I think you won 4 in a row.
4 in a row, and then I fought Aubin Mercer on a short notice. Short notice for me at 55 is 6 weeks or 5.5 weeks that I had. And that was tough. I didn't feel right going to the fight just because. I mean, you remember the weight cut.
And that was your last fight at 55, right?
Yeah, that was my last fight at 55.
And then you went on a 4-fight win streak?
Another 4-fight win streak at 170 when I moved up to 170.
And then the last fight was Damian Maia.
It was Damian Maia. I made a heck of a run. Where I feel like I turned the corner of. Like you said, I think I just mentally wasn't ready when I got in, or even skill wise. Like I thought I think I had the physical tools. Obviously, I just wasn't. I think when I got in the UFC, if the UFC would have, played a little favors a little bit, instead of throwing me in with guys that have been fighting forever or have a background that's been in forever, because you see some of the guys that get in. We'll say Mickey Gall we'll give him as an example, where they're just giving them complete tomato cans and letting them, but now slowly trying to build them up, because that these guys I got thrown in right away with Rashid. It's all excuses. All I'm making right now is excuses. I'm ready now. I truly think that I'm one of the top fighters in the world, and I had a horrible performance against Damian Maia, where I just felt like there was a lot of drama in the background, and I like drama though sometimes, but
Too
I
much
think
drama.
it was just a little too much.
Too much.
I think it was just ruining. I lost my focus a little. I lost my focus in training and lost my focus in overall life, where I thought everything was kind of crumbling at the worst time possible. And yeah, so now I'm back.
And that brings us to where we're at now. You're in Atlanta right now?
Yeah, I moved out to Atlanta at American Top Team. Um, Last fight, Jakal came down, which is the head coach out here, and was down in American Top Team in Coconut Creek, and was helping me train for Damian Maia. And I kind of really liked him and liked his philosophy on training and coaching. And Diego Lima also came out, and I trained with him a little bit. And I was like, this seems like a really cool dude, and really, I think he's another guy that's really underperformed in the UFC as well as Diego Lima. I think he's way more talented than what he showed, and I think he's starting to pick up steam now and truly believing in it. And so, after my fight with Damian Maia, I feel like after every loss, I'm like, listen, it's time to hit the reset button.
Yeah.
Try to figure out what the hell is going on. Let's figure out like what we have to do. And that was kind of what happened after the Albert Mercer fight, where I was like, time to hit the reset button. And I moved out to American Top Team from Boston and started training there. And I love American Top Team down in Coconut Creek. Mike Brown's one of the greatest coaches in the world. And but again, there was just some like drama with me and my girlfriend at the time, and just too much going on. I think where I was like, it's time to make a transition after my fight, where I thought I was like, do I go to Colorado? Do I go to Cali? Exactly what do I do? And I decided, hey, I don't know where I'm going, but my first spot is I need a place to stay. I need a place to live. And I was like, if I don't know where I'm going and I want to travel maybe to train a little bit, I need to buy something that I can live in and travel with. So I went out and I bought a travel trailer. All right. So like an RV that I pull around with the truck. I love it. I think it's awesome.
And that's what you're in right now?
Yeah, I'm in it right now.
Yeah.
Can you get us a picture of that so we can include that?
Yeah, we'll get some still shots.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a tour in a little bit here. All right. And so I was in Tampa, because that's where I bought the RV, the travel trailer. And I remembered that Douglas Lima is fighting Rory McDonald. Okay, and I've always wanted to train with Douglas, because obviously he's one of the top welterweights in the world. I've trained with Diego Lima, and Jakal lived in Atlanta. And I was like, this might be the best time to go out to Atlanta and get some really good training in. Train with one of the best 70-pounders in the world. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to Atlanta. I'm going to start training there. And so far, I'm absolutely loving it, because it's a small niche of people, but we're all the same weight class. We're all like very high level. We have Will Brooks out here as well. We have Mikey Graves. I don't know if you know Mikey Graves, but
he was an Ultimate Fighter, right?
What's up?
Was he on the Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah, he was on the Ultimate Fighter. Fought Usman to a close fight.
Yeah,
and then he was, I think, 4-1 in the UFC or something like that at 170. So he's out here. We got Jakal, obviously both Lima brothers. It's just, I couldn't think of a really, even at a big gym like American Top Team, there's so many good guys, but half the time they're doing their own thing, or the other half they're not all in the same weight class. But here we just got this small niche that we're all so high level and just all sticking together. So I'm loving it so far. I'm in Atlanta. I'm loving it. I think it's awesome.
I think we have a time constraint coming up, so we'll get to the some of the questions that Brendo has for you.
Yeah. So What is your funniest Brock story, Brock Larson?
My funniest Brock story. Ooh, that's a on the spot. The funniest.
Remember the time
I'll tell you like one story that he did to me that's kind of funny. So me, Tyson, and Brock, obviously we all own a school in Minnesota together, and Tyson decided he's not going to do any of the construction. So me and Brock are in Minnesota. We're doing all the construction.
Was Tyson in Minnesota at the time?
No.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't in Minnesota at this time. You know? So me and Brock we're doing construction, and we're staying the night there because we just want to get this done, get it all in, and so we're on air mattresses, and I'm sleeping at about 3 a.m. All of a sudden, I sleep with an eye mask and earplugs. Okay, I'm a princess when I sleep, so I'm on this ear mattress with my earplugs in, my eye mask on, and all of a sudden I wake up to a huge boom, and I think it's in my dream, kind of, right? And then I kind of wake up and I move the eye mask up, and I'm like, Brock is standing ahead in front of me with a sledgehammer, okay? With a sledgehammer that he just fucking destroyed the wall with, 3 inches in front of my head at 3 a.m. and I wake up and I'm like, ah! So I'm freaking out like a little. It's kind of embarrassing, but it was kind of funny at the same time. But
I can see him doing that.
That's definitely Brock-esque.
But it was actually funny. So the next night, though, just a little tidbit to that story was, I woke up at like 3 a.m. to go to the bathroom. And I'm barely sliding on my bed. I'm not sure if Brock sleeps. Okay, so I'm barely sliding out because I'm trying to be quiet, and he's sleeping there like this. I can hear you. Because he's so worried that I'm gonna mess with him. But yeah.
I think we got time for one more question.
Yeah. What do you miss most about Boston?
Tyson, Chartier. That's about it. I honestly, other than the few like relationships that like with the people that out there and like my teammates that I became fond of and the coaches, I absolutely hated Boston. I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't think of one good thing about Boston other than the people I met.
Well, we get traffic.
I enjoyed. Other than the pizza, weather. I did like Santarpio's.
That's the pizza spot you would go to with Eddie?
Yeah, that's Santarpio's. I really like that place. And like I said, other than the people I met and the coaches and training partners that I like, I pretty much despise Boston. You can't tax the roads and have the worst roads in the world. It's my biggest pet peeve. You just can't do it. It's just you can't do that. It should be illegal.
I agree.
Yeah, Boston's tough. It's tough to get around. The weather sucks. The people are mean. It's nostalgia.
I mean, you're out in New Hampshire, so it's a lot better.
Yeah,
I think it's a lot nicer there, and it's more like Minnesota-esque in New Hampshire. I really like that place. I could live there.
Mm-hmm.
I could move to New Hampshire and live there, but in Boston, no.
603,
no
baby.
Oh, I do have one more.
Patriots talk all the time. No chance.
I do have one more. So you obviously spend a lot of time in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Chicago. So you Packers, Vikings, or Bears fan?
Bears. It's embarrassing.
I'm a Chicago Bears fan. Don't ever disrespect me again like that. Okay.
Sorry about that.
I'm ride or die. Chicago. And Chicago has a real chance this year.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, they'll play 16 games.
All right. Before we let you go, you got any fights coming up? Any fight news or?
I mean, they're trying to send me to Russia. That's what I'll say. I mean, there's nothing signed yet. I don't have a contract in the mail or in my email or nothing, so nothing's official. But
possibly Russia.
The UFC hates Tony. They're not trying to do any favors for Tony. But I told him I don't really care because I really think that I could beat anyone in this world. I think that I'm one of the best 170-pounders in the world. And I'll fight anybody, anytime, because I'm going to get paid the same. But I'd like to be able to start building a bigger name and a bigger following.
Anyone, anywhere, anytime, but ideally not in Russia.
Russia's beautiful this time of year.
I'm excited. Hey.
All right. We can get out of here, but thanks for calling in, Tony. We love you.
Thanks, Tony.
I love you too. Yes, Brendo.
Well, I think he had a lot to say there. It's always interesting getting Tony when he opens up. I think it was he's got pretty phenomenal story there.
That was quite insightful.
He can talk,
He can.
which I like because sometimes people won't talk.
Yeah.
So
No,
we just had a little bit of a time constraint, so we kind of had to cut him off. But I think a lot of people are gonna see Tony in a different light.
Oh,
if they
most
listen to the whole
definitely.
thing.
Most definitely.
You kind of see where he's coming from.
And there's definitely more to the story that we can, have him on again later.
Yeah, because he has no problem telling us everything.
Yeah.
So as far as, what's next, if you guys have any guests that you guys want us to have on, like any requests, like kind of what our network is, like anybody who's watching these kind of knows who we hang out with and who we have access to. So if there's any, particular guests, just send us a DM and we'll see if we can line that up. We appreciate the support. We got some big stuff coming up. We'll make sure we get the guys in here before the UFC Boston card. Talk about the big fights at the Garden on October 18th. And, we're excited. We'll just keep plugging away. And that was good. Was that all right, Howard? Is that good? Okay.